Assalamu alaikum. As you know, I'm M.J Aouadi, the new executive director of CARE. We're putting together a series of little fireside chats. I'm next to my heater right here in a place that used to be, at one point in time, a fireplace. And just trying to explain to you all in the best way why you should care about CARE. In our last installment, we talked about that little lady right behind the camera and her experiences with school bullying and how I reached out to CARE Florida in order to address that situation. I wanted to expand a little bit about the services that CARE in general provides and use some of my own personal stories so that you know it actually happened to me or someone dear to me. In that last video, I was telling you that one time my cousin reached out to me at like 5 o'clock in the morning, hysterical, that one of his friends actually got fired from the job because he was trying to pray at a local mall, and they told him he couldn't pray, and him and about 5 or 6 other people decided, they're going to try and pray, and they suffered negative employment decisions because of their want to practice their faith, and what really amounted to a reasonable accommodation under the law. It doesn't take much to take 5 minutes to pray, go down to a side corner or something in a big mall and pray. But their group were taxi drivers, and for some reason their employer didn't want them to do that. Now my cousin is a taxi driver by necessity right now. By trade, he's a computer scientist, and actually now he's an amazing salesman. So it's an evolution. But back to the story. At that time, around 2012, him and a friend were trying to get around to pray. His friend really is practicing, and 5 times a day he's praying. He pulled over to the side of the road where they line up for getting their fares and whatnot at the mall, and he went out and he took out his prayer rug and started praying over to the side. He was still visible, but not really visible. And I'm sorry, the camera is like shaking a little bit. My daughter has a booming slime business, and she's making slime right behind us. So she might be manipulating the slime behind us. At any rate, so he prayed off to the side. His supervisor came in and said, "You can't do that here." Well, it's not true. It's a public place. You can pray wherever you want to. And to the extent that you're an independent contractor, you can take 5 minutes out of your day to do whatever you want to do, especially practice your religion. It's what's called a reasonable accommodation under the law. Well, anyways, for some reason, this taxi company didn't want to offer a reasonable accommodation. And my cousin's friend that day really needed to pray. He really needed to exercise his belief in the oneness of God and sit down for 5 minutes with his head to the ground and contemplate. So when he couldn't do that, they kind of told him, you have 2 situations. Either you get back in and you never do this again, or you get out of the place. You just don't come back. So he took a break. He called me up. My cousin and him called hysterically at almost 11, 12 o'clock at night. What can we do? We need our jobs, this, that, and the other thing. And I said, you know what? At that time, I only dealt with civil rights back in my days with the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Special Litigation Section. But I knew a little bit about Title VII, and I knew a little bit about, reasonable accommodation. And I thought, hey, that doesn't seem right. They came to me as a lawyer, and they said, come and represent us for this and do your thing. We want to come to you. We know you know what you're doing. And I thought, there's some people better than me, even though I'm a lawyer. There's some people better than me that would know what to do in this situation. And I told them to call CARE Florida. At that time, it was CARE Tampa, and they were out of Tampa, and out in Wesley Chapel or something like that. Not Wesley Chapel. I'm not sure. I'm now in Connecticut mode, so I can tell you about every Ford there is out there. But I can't kind of forget about my days in Florida, even though it was only about 2.5 months ago, not even. But anyways, so I told him, call CARE. And I reached out to Hassan and I asked them to make the connection and things like that. They immediately took into the case, and after a series of different twists and turns and ups and downs, they were able to negotiate and settle the case and bring each one of the 6 to 11 plaintiffs, I don't remember offhand how many there were, some kind of relief. Now that could have been $2, that could have been $2 million, that could have been 5 cents. The amounts don't matter. What matters is that those individuals stood up and said, listen, I'm doing a reasonable accommodation. I want to practice my religion. I just want to go over there to the corner and pray. Now, I don't want to go back to the garbage can where you told me that we should pray and start praying. And I don't want to just delay my prayer until I can get off of sight. I want to just go off to the side in a public place, but in a non-blocking to any view, any traffic or things like that. I don't want to obstruct business. I just wanted to go out and pray. And, they got that done. And that's what is amazing about the place called CARE. CARE, whether it's in Florida, in Connecticut, in Los Angeles, in Louisiana, and Washington, D.C., and Maryland, and Virginia, and any one of the 50 states that we operate in, and the 34 that we have actual offices in. We are the subject matter experts as it comes to, and we are able to deal with issues and come up to speed because we live the faith. We are Muslims or persons that are familiar with Islam. We don't have to go in and bone up on the subject. We can take action right away. I'm out of time. My name's M.J Aouadi. I'm the Executive Director of CARE. Behind the scenes is M.J Aouadi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.